This is Megan, and welcome to Stories in the Woods. Today's forest fact comes from Zach.
Did you know that a group of foxes is called a skulk or leash? Foxes have excellent hearing. They can hear a watch ticking 37 meters away. They dig underground dens where they take care of their babies, which are called kits, and it also hides them away from predators.
Those are some great facts, Zach. Let me just... Hold on. Studio's a little squishy. Actually, my studio might be my closet. Let me just rearrange myself a little and... Maybe I need to find a little bigger space for recording my stories. This reminds me of a story, though. Okay, all you humans and forest dwellers, here we go. Mr. and Mrs. Fox lived in a small den they had discovered the previous spring. It was tucked into a hill right next to a massive forest. The perfect place to raise little fox cubs, thought Mrs. Fox. And that was just what they were expecting in a few days. Mr. Fox hoped for a frolicking, playful set of twins. He imagined sunny days running and pouncing through the tall grass with his cubs. Mrs. Fox agreed out loud, but secretly she wished for a few more, perhaps 3 or 4, to fill their den with laughter and cozy winter nights. Imagine their surprise when not 2 or 3 or even 4 cubs came with their squeezed-shut eyes and snuffling tiny noses, but 14. 14 cubs. Mr. Fox recounted several times before it finally sunk in. And while Mr. and Mrs. Fox were thrilled to welcome their little cubs, they couldn't help but think the next few years might be a bit, interesting for their freshly formed family. The most immediate problem that presented itself in the first few days was that their den was simply not big enough to house 14 growing cubs and their parents. Mr. Fox announced the next week that he was going to attempt to find them a new den. Mrs. Fox frowned. She loved their little den, and it was in the perfect location for the prestigious Foxwood Academy for the cubs to attend one day. But one of the cubs had fallen into the oatmeal pot in the morning, and another had been lost somewhere in a sea of brown fur before Mrs. Fox finally managed to find her a day later. It was simply too crowded. Mr. Fox began his search the next morning. He slinked and skulked around the edge of the forest looking for any abandoned burrows and dens that could house 14 active cubs. The first one he explored seemed quite promising. A small hedgehog was hosting an open house. "Come in, come in," she gestured to some of the animals. Mr. Fox helped himself to one of the glasses of rose water that had been carefully set out along with small pamphlets giving details on the home. "This modest abode should not deter you and your loved ones from calling it home." The hedgehog waved her tiny paws as she spoke to the small crowd. "With 4 separate dugout rooms, high-quality tunnels lined with LED lights, and a luxurious master bath with a skylight to the world above, this home would be perfect for a large family." Mr. Fox's ears perked up. "How much?" asked a well-dressed rabbit behind Mr. Fox. "This one is a steal at 1,400 acorns," the real estate hedgehog said, and Mr. Fox spat out the water he'd been sipping. All eyes turned to stare at him, and he meekly put his cup back down on the table and, tail between legs, slowly backed out of the burrow. As much as Mr. Fox wanted to surprise Mrs. Fox with a gorgeous large home, this one was far too expensive. Mr. Fox sighed and shook his fur. Never mind, he would keep looking. The next space Mr. Fox found was a hollowed-out cave beneath a large fir tree. It was a bit darker than the last one, but still seemed spacious enough for his ruckus little ones. There was no answer when Mr. Fox called out a greeting, so he cautiously crept in to take a look around, and promptly fell into a dark hole. "Minerva," whispered a strange voice near Mr. Fox's ears. Mr. Fox tried to answer to say no, in fact, he was not Minerva, but loose dirt had gotten up his nose and in his mouth, and all he could do was sputter and cough.
Oh, Minerva, my sweet, I would know your delicate, melodious voice anywhere,
the voice cooed, and Mr. Fox turned to see an odd creature looming towards him. Mr. Fox yelped and scrambled out of the hole.
Minerva, come back,
the voice called, but Mr. Fox was already halfway home. He burst into the den and shook his head at Mrs. Fox. She sighed deeply, but brightened and hurried to their kitchen table. She plucked a piece of paper from it and pushed it into Mr. Fox's hands. Fur-tastic Ferret Brothers, it read, for all your expansion and construction needs. It was worth a try, thought Mr. Fox, and so the next morning there was a sharp tap at the front door of their den. Mr. Fox opened it, and there was a thin ferret with a construction belt looped around his waist, which the ferret kept hitching up every few minutes. "Good morning. I'm looking for, Mr. Fox?" The ferret held a clipboard and had a small pencil tucked behind his ear. Mr. Fox opened his mouth to ask the most obvious question, but the ferret waved a hand. Yeah, you want to know where the brother for Tastic Ferret Brothers is? Well, I'll tell you where he is. Off on a lovely vacation in the Bahamas that he conveniently forgot to invite me on. The ferret had wandered into the den while he spoke and had already whipped out a measuring tape and was starting to take measurements.
I
had
to
find out from our Aunt Sue. Oh, let's see here. We're doing a bedroom expansion? The ferret asked, raising an eyebrow at Mr. Fox. Mr. Fox nodded, and the ferret called behind him. Come on in, guys. Guys? Mr. Fox wondered just as the earth began to shake around him, and two massive badgers squeezed their broad shoulders through the door. Get digging, boys, the ferret said, and he flopped down on Mr. and Mrs. Fox's couch and pulled out a magazine. The two enormous badgers began scooping dirt from the wall. It was loud, and Mr. Fox anxiously watched the digging, fairly certain at this point that he had made a big mistake. As the badgers dug further, Mr. Fox heard a new sound through all the noise with his exceptional hearing. A sort of familiar sound? Minerva, the voice was saying. Mr. Fox's eyes grew wide.
Where are you, my sweet?
Mr. Fox desperately tried to get the badger's attention, but it was too loud. He pulled the magazine from the ferret's hands and made stop motions. Eh? What? The ferret leaned in, trying to hear. Flop, mop. Oh, stop! Stop! The ferret pulled out a megaphone. Hey there, Brute, Brock. Want to slow down for a sec there? Take a little break. The badgers didn't even turn at his voice and promptly sat down heavily on the ground. The voice Mr. Fox had heard was now disappearing into the distance. Minerva. Mr. Fox breathed a sigh of relief. He wasn't too sure what that creature was he had run into before, but he wasn't super keen on having to entertain it in his home, or to hear the inevitably lengthy story about who Minerva was and why he was looking for her. You know, these things happen all the time. Pivot, pivot. That's our motto at Fantastic Ferret Brothers. I'm thinking we change direction and Mr. Fox realized the ferret had been speaking to him. Before Mr. Fox could say anything, the two badgers, Brute and Brock, had started directing their efforts on the opposite den wall. Clods of dirt and chunks of rock began to once again rain down on Mr. Fox, and he quickly scurried away. An hour passed, and Mr. Fox thought maybe this project might end up working when the badgers poked their furry heads out from the long tunnel they had excavated. Mr. Fox anxiously wrung his paws. Something else had gone wrong? What was it this time? Seems we've run into some pretty bad tree rootage, the ferret told Mr. Fox. He had already pulled out a tiny cell phone from his tool belt. Yeah, I'll call my best guy for this. 20 minutes later, there was another knock at the door. Mr. Fox opened it to greet a beaver. Tree root extraction? She asked, and without waiting for a reply, pushed into the den and wandered down the tunnel. Mr. Fox followed behind, and his mouth fell open. The badgers had dug a huge tunnel and emptied out a large cavity which was covered in dozens of twisted, thick tree roots. Brute and Brock were hanging out on one of them, their small metal lunchboxes open, sipping coffee from a thermos. The beaver had already started gnawing away at the root system. Shreds of roots showered down to the ground, but there was a sudden, loud Oath! The beaver waddled back from where she'd been working. A large root was wedged firmly between her front teeth. Sorry, going to have to take a rain check on this one. Off to my dentist. And then she was gone. Mr. Fox looked at the ferret. The ferret tapped his chin. No problem, Mr. Fox. I've got one more trick up my sleeve. He whipped his cell phone back out and made another call. This time, 30 minutes went by before there was another sharp tap at the door. Mr. Fox went to answer and leapt in fright from the sharp beak that came pushing in. Wendy Woodpecker, at your service. Here you need some help with a tree. The ferret had appeared next to Mr. Fox. Wendy, my dear, always good to see you. Wendy looked down her beak at the ferret. And why was I not your first call? The ferret, for the first time that Mr. Fox had known him, which granted had only been a day, was at a loss for words. I'm kidding, Freddie. The woodpecker grinned wickedly. I'll just get to work, shall I? And she flew off, and they could hear a repetitive thud coming from above. Wendy will get us right. The ferret had finally found his voice again. She'll pet the tree from above, take it down, me and my boys will rip it out from the roots. But only a few minutes after the rhythmic tapping had started, there was a loud pounding at Mr. Fox's door. He could feel the start of a headache coming on. What else could possibly go sideways? And he opened the door to the squirrel family who lived in the tree, several trees over. And as they began their angry nattering about disruption of sleep cycles and delicate circadian rhythms, Mrs. Fox and the 14 cubs arrived home. Mrs. Fox's eyes went huge. The fox cubs surged into the new room in a tornado of red fur and excited shouts. The woodpecker flew by, shouting, Mistake? Me? I never make mistakes. The audacity, I'll still be charging full price. And the ferret was back on his phone trying to find another contractor. Mr. Fox could feel a strange feeling growing and growing until he couldn't keep it in any longer. Quiet! He shouted. And it did get very quiet, except for the faint laughter and joyful cries of 14 young fox cubs. Mr. and Mrs. Fox glanced at each other, and together, paw in paw, they went to investigate. Their little cubs were gleefully dangling, swinging, running, and jumping from tree root to tree root. Thanks, Dad!
This is the best playroom ever.
Mrs. Fox smiled and gave his paw a squeeze. Best playroom ever? And Mr. Fox grinned. It was the best playroom ever. It might have taken several left turns, a few surprise rights, and one or two obstacles. But with a little thinking outside the box, well, maybe this den was the perfect place to raise cubs. 14 cubs in. Oh, hang on, listeners. I just recorded that whole story calling the baby foxes cubs, and I meant to use the word kits, like Zach shared with us at the start of our episode. I am so frustrated with myself. I could record the entire story again, but that would take a long time. I think I'll keep it with the word cubs, and remember for next time to check my forest fact before I start writing my story. I could even write it out and have it in front of me the whole time. Then it'll be fresh in my mind for telling the story. And you know what? It's okay to make mistakes. Everyone does, even grown-ups. If you're listening with your grown-up, ask them to share a time they made a mistake and how they worked through it. I'm sure they have plenty of stories to share. Stories in the Woods are original stories by me, Megan Schmitz. Thank you to Zach for today's forest fact. If you would like to send me an interesting fact about a forest plant or animal, please email me at storiesinthewoodspodcast@gmail.com. That's storiesinthewoodspodcast@gmail.com. You can find me at Littles in the Woods on Instagram or Facebook for nature play and tips for getting little explorers outside. Thanks for joining me. I can't wait to meet again for another story in the woods.